Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, Monday, November 16th, 2020. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open. Adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Tri-Town News. Second, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 6, 2019, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. On October 5th, 2020, a notice was sent to both the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger that this meeting would be held remotely using communication equipment via Zoom due to COVID-19 restrictions. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching their decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. This meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Thank you, Eileen. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Mertens has been excused. Mr. Moretti,
Here.
give me 1 second. Mr. O'Donnell has been excused. Mr. Orozco,
Here.
Mr. Saya is absent. Mr. Cantor,
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez is absent. And Chairman Nansen,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
Indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Tropper, you mind swearing in the professionals, please?
Ooh.
Ron, I think you're muted.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, the record should reflect that Ms. Beam and Mr. Cunliffe have been sworn for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Approval of minutes,
I have no minutes this evening.
vouchers,
I have no vouchers this evening.
correspondence.
I don't really have correspondence, but we were just talking before the meeting actually began about the meeting dates. And if everybody who hasn't looked at them can just look at them. There were only 2 dates, one in October because of Columbus Day, that would not be on the 2nd or 4th Monday of the month. And then during December, our second meeting falls between Christmas and New Year's. So we'll probably leave that one off the calendar. I don't know if anybody wants to put an alternate date in its place, but otherwise we confirm them up at our next meeting or so. And then we can go ahead and advertise for next year and I can start scheduling things. And the only other item was the Rules Committee. It looks like Tuesday's probably the best day, unless you want to try to get together before one of our regular meetings and discuss it. And I haven't received any comments back from anyone about last year's resolution or this year's report so far. So
All looks good to me so far.
all right, so if we can firm up one of those dates soon as well.
Why don't you go ahead and do that and just let me know?
All right, I'll just set up a meeting and it'll
That's
be by
fine.
Zoom.
That works for me. I'm available pretty much every night.
Okay. Can it be early, like even 4:30, 5 o'clock?
Probably, you know,
That works for, that works for me.
I can do that as well.
most of my courts are in the morning and early afternoon, so.
All right, the only one that would be Mr. Say and Mr. Mertens. I'll check with them, and if so, maybe we'll have it at 5 o'clock or Like,
The
a-
only one you might have a problem would be Mr. Saya.
yeah,
I think he works till
Yeah.
5 o'clock, so.
I'll check with him and find out and I'll send
But
out.
even 5:30, Wendell, if it's a Zoom call.
Oh, yeah, no, that's
That'll
fine.
work
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that then. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, resolutions, case number BA 1710, Justin and Israel Tao. Resolution granting a 1-year extension of time. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertens, Moretti, Saya, Cantor, and Gonzalez. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by
I'll
Mr.
second
Hughes,
it.
seconded by Mr. Moretti. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
and that's it. We just have 3 to vote on that one. Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution's memorialized.
Case number BA 1818, new singular wireless PCS, Cellco Partnerships, DBA Verizon Wireless. Resolution granting a 1-year extension of time. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertens, Moretti, Saya, Cantor, Gonzalez, Nansen. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Moretti,
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
seconded by Mr. Hughes. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
and Chairman Nansen.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolutions memorialized. Thank you.
Thank you. Case number BA 20114, Starbucks Coffee Company. Resolution granting bulk variance for 2 additional wall facade signs. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertens, Moretti, Saya, Cantor, Gonzalez, and Nancy. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Hughes,
Second.
second by Mr. Moretti. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
and Chairman Nansen.
Yes.
Motion memorialized. Thank you again.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Moretti, those are the resolutions you need to go in tomorrow and sign.
No problem. Be
Thank
there
you.
whenever, when Eileen calls me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, applications before the board. Case number BA 1833, Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. The request for extension of time. Application of Prince of Peace Lutheran Church is applicant, owner seeking a 1-year extension of time on minor subdivision approval granted on May 13th, 2019 on premises known as Block 59, Lots 5, 434 Aldridge Road. Okay, Mr. Kaplan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Before we go any further, Mr. Moretti, do you have to recuse yourself on this one?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You'll have to leave the meeting and then come back in a few. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank-
Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we're back here before the board seeking a second 1-year extension. My client has performed all of their engineering requirements that they were required to do, but they're still waiting for approvals. I've spoken with the engineer, Mr. Geller, and he informs me the current situation is that they're waiting now is just due to the approvals from the Howell Township sewer utility, which would then have to go through and be also approved by the Manasquan River Sewage Authority and the OCUA and the NJDP, if MRSA wants them to. They've all been submitted. All our engineering work has been done. We're just waiting for them to do that. We got a review letter from the township engineering that was dated October 8th, and that was supplied to the board and its professionals previously. So we're just waiting for the last of the governmental approvals. And we have done everything that we have to do. It's just a waiting game.
Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, just to refresh the board, this was the Prince of Priest property on Aldridge Road. The applicant came in for a minor subdivision to create 2 residential lots from that parcel. They needed a conditional use variance because the lot area for the church was reduced under what was required for the zone. The 2 residential lots, they were below the lot area required for to be serviced by septic. So that's why there was a condition in the resolution requiring them to get all these outside agency sewer approvals before they filed the subdivision map. I can confirm from my perspective is from an engineering board perspective, they've done everything that I've asked. They're just waiting for the outside agency approvals and the utility department approvals for the sanitary sewer. So I take no exception to the granting of the 1-year extension. It's just, how quickly those outside agency approvals can go is really what's holding it up at this point.
Okay. Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to approve the extension.
Is it Mr. Cantor?
It
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
I'll second that. Matt Hughes.
Motion by Mr. Cantor, seconded by Mr. Hughes. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
and Chairman Nansen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck, Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you very much. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, next case on before the board, case number BA 1804. Sean and Christina Conley, construction of single-family dwelling with septic system. Application is Sean Christina Conley is applicant owner seeking bulk variance approval to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling with the septic field on an undeveloped lot along with the expansion of an existing shed and 2-car detached garage on premises known as Block 41, Lot 32, Oak Glen Road. This application was originally scheduled for December 10th, 2018, when it was carried to February 25th, 2019, with no further notice. On February 25th, 2019, after some testimony was placed on the record, this application was carried to May 20th, 2019, with no further notice. On May 20th, 2019, this application was carried September 23rd, 2019, with no further notice. On September 23rd, 2019, it was carried to December 16th, 2019. On December 16th, 2019, the application was carried to August 27th, 2020. And at August 27th, 2020, it was carried to June 22nd.
That was April
I'm sorry,
27th.
April. I'm sorry, April. It was carried to June 22nd, 2020, with no further notice due to COVID-19 restrictions. On June 22nd, this application was carried to October 26th, 2020, with notice, and October 26th, 2020, the application was carried to November 16th with no further notice. Expiration date, November 30th, 2020. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertz, Moretti, O'Donnell, Orozco, Sayed, Nancy. Welcome, Mr. Conley.
Hi, I'm Nick Dakotas. I'm Sean's engineer
Okay,
for the project.
Mr. Nansen, I think because it's been a period of time, let's re-swear everyone in. My notes indicate that some very minimal testimony was taken. I'm sure Nick would want to review that and bring us back up to date. So I'll ask Nick and Mr. Connolly, please raise your right hand and swear you in. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Right, Nick, starting with you, please. Your name for the record.
Nick Dakotas of
Yeah.
Belmar, New Jersey.
Thank you. And Mr. Connolly, please. Your name for the record.
of Belmar, New Jersey.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Mr. Dukakis, do you want to give us a little bit of your professional background?
Sure. I'm a civil and structural engineer. I've been working for about 15 years now for a variety of firms. I'm currently an employee of Matrix New World, but I'm here as a friend to Sean, not as in my professional capacity with Matrix. I've previously served as the municipal engineer for the borough of Belmar and also the assistant engineer for the township of Brick.
Okay, in your education?
I have a bachelor's and a master's from Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken.
Okay, we accept your credentials.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, before we go any further, Mr. Cantor has certified that he's watched the videos from the prior testimony, so he is eligible to vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's Moretti, he's back. Okay, sir.
All right, so just to bring you guys back up to speed, since it was a long time since we've been here. Sean and Christina Connolly have a piece of property that's been in their family for a very long time. I believe, Sean, previously your grandfather lived there.
Yes.
Before the house that was on it burned down in, I believe, the 70s. And now Sean and Christina want to build a single family house for them to move into on the property. The property is landlocked. There is no right-of-way access. There is an existing unpaved informal driveway / roadway that provides access to the property as well as to a neighboring property that's also landlocked. What they're proposing to do is to construct a single family house, detached garage, and also to extend a shed that was on the property that still remains to the boundaries of its original footprint. Back when we originally came before the board, in addition to the variances that would be required, because this is in an ARE 6 zone, and the property size is approximately 2.56 acres. In addition to some of those types of variances, there were three major issues that we had that the board felt we needed to be addressed. The first is that it looked like there was the presence of wetlands possibly nearby on the property. Since the last time we were before the board, we had made an application to NJDEP for an LOI. DEP came out and actually had findings of that there were no wetlands on the property. In addition, they further found that the wetlands were far enough away that there is no buffer or transition area on the property. So one of the updates from the last time we were here, we've removed all the wetlands information from the plans based on that guidance from DEP. The second issue was fire access to the site. Shortly after the original hearing that we had back in December of 2018, around February of 2019, we met with the fire official on site. He agreed that the access that we were providing with the driveway would be sufficient for their fire vehicles. The one request that he had was to provide a turnaround on site so that they could come back out the way that they came in. One of the attachments that we've submitted is a turning analysis for a 48-foot long fire truck to be able to come into the site, make a K-turn, and come back out. So that's something that we feel has now been addressed. And that's the turning movement of the truck there. And finally, the last remaining major roadblock is the access to the site itself. And since the last hearing, Sean and Tina have had an easement prepared and completed with the resident that lives on the road there, providing an easement for them to be able to access their property. At this point, I think any of the remaining hurdles are things that could be addressed on a conditional approval. Things like the septic system design, and those types of issues. So we're asking that the board consider our application, substantially complete at this time.
Okay, now, will the driveway easement be filed and recorded?
Sean, do you know if
That's been recorded already.
Oh, it has been, okay.
We have a copy, was provided, Mr. Chair. I have it here.
Okay.
It's been recorded with the county.
Okay,
It is marked as an exhibit A17.
Correct.
Charlie?
Yeah, so as Mr. Tropoli and Mr. Dakotas noted, there is a driveway easement. It's just for the record, I just want to know it's lot 33 and 41.01 to the west, that front on Oakland Road there. I spoke with the fire chief this morning. He said he confirmed he did meet with the applicant in February of, I believe it was 2019, so this goes way back. He didn't really have any issue with the circulation that the applicant had provided, that sketch that Eileen put up on there with that. I just have a question, just generally speaking. So I know the easement to Oakland is 15 foot wide. That access the rest of the way. Does Mr. Connolly know approximately like how wide that is? Is what's there right now? Is it the full 15 feet? Is it 8 feet? Is it 12 feet the whole way through there? Do you know what's existing out there?
I'd say it's about 14 feet to 15 feet up to my property. And then from my property, from the beginning to the end of my property, it's been widened to 20 feet.
So the only discussion that I had with the fire chief is obviously you're going to need to get in there for construction access, with a concrete truck for, to pour your foundations and stuff like that. In that process, if any trees can be trimmed, to a minimum height of 13.5 feet, so there's no overhang. And then if the applicant would possibly agree to, just supplementing the edges of the roadway to get the full 15 feet, so there's no issues from the fire chief's perspective, would the applicant have an issue with that? As long as the contingent, obviously, on the neighbor, the owner of lot 33 and 4101, not having an issue with it as well.
Those concerns have already been addressed and taken care of. So
okay. So and then now
I'm 14 foot from the ground up to the tree line.
Okay.
6 inches in excess of what you're asking.
Okay. And then width wise, you're saying you're like 14, 15 feet pretty much the whole way through there?
Absolutely. If not wider.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, moving into the site, what I will say is they have shown a dedicated 20-foot wide DGA cartway along the southerly property line. And then coming into the site, there's two driveways. There's a 12-foot driveway, 12-foot wide driveway leading to the single-family dwelling. And then there's also a 20-foot wide driveway leading to the detached garage. The township ordinance requires any driveway over 150 feet, the first 150 feet have to be paved. The fire official didn't have any issue with the driveway from Oakland Road up to the property. I think it's a discussion the board needs to have. Does any portion of the 20-foot wide cartway on the property need to be paved, or the driveway stubs off as they stub off to the single family dwelling and to the detached garage? The ordinance does require, residential driveways to be paved with 2.5 inches of HMA base course and 1.5 inches of HMA surface course. The applicant's currently just proposing 4 inches of DGA. So it's up to the board's discretion on that, whether or not they want to grant relief of that.
Charlie, is there a paved apron to Oakland Road or no?
That is a good question. Their plan only shows in the immediate vicinity of property. Let me try to go to Google Street View. So at least from what I'm looking at Google Street View right now, imagery date says August of 2013. This is readily available on Google Earth. What I'm seeing there doesn't look like there is like any type of asphalt apron. From what I'm seeing there, obviously that's almost 7 years back now. So I don't know if one has been installed since or what the current condition. Mr. Connolly, can you provide some testimony on that?
Yeah, there's some sort of, I think the owner put some sort of like gravel base, like a DGA down and through there on the front, coming off of the pavement of Oakland Road into the lane. So there is some sort of, I guess, substrate you'd call it.
Would you have a objection to paving at least 25 to 50 feet off of Oakland Road?
Yeah, that's not my property, sir. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Is there an easement there?
Well, respectfully, you're asking for a variance from the board. The board has the right to impose conditions. I think that there should be an apron and there should be pavement at back 25 feet. This is an issue that you're going to have to negotiate with the person whose property it is. You have an easement on the property, and we're asking you to improve the easement on the road and 25 feet back. I don't think that that's unreasonable.
25 feet. And now, what type of surface are you asking for?
Asphalt.
Well, the apron should be concrete, and then 25 feet pavement, asphalt back.
Okay. I'll have to talk to the landowner.
I mean, I would say though, if you're asking for action from the board tonight, that's going to wind up being a condition. And
I
then
just don't understand why this concern wasn't brought up on our last meeting, because we were told, once we take care of the three separate items, that we were pretty much, in compliance. This was never mentioned.
That's not what was represented. It was represented that there were 3 issues that the board couldn't get over to even hear the balance of the application. So now those 3 issues have been addressed, and now we're hearing the nuts and bolts of the details of what has to happen. So these are one of those things. I mean, I don't really understand why you're so argumentative. I think that this is a standard protocol. In fact, you actually need relief because your lot is not fronting on a public street. So this should not be coming as a huge surprise that they're going to want some type of assurance that the reason that they want the pavement and the apron is so that all this gravel that we're looking at on this photograph that you provided doesn't run off into the street and become a problem. That's why they're doing it.
That makes sense to me. I understand what you're saying, but I apologize if you interpreted me as being, combative or what have you said.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just add on to that and just clarify too. So like I said, residential driveways over 150 feet, it is a requirement of the ordinance that the first 150 feet does have to be paved. So, certainly 25 feet is not 150 feet. And what I would say is, I know Jen mentioned about a concrete apron and then an asphalt. I would have no issue if it was an asphalt apron continuous for the first 25 feet. Doing 2 different surfaces obviously is going to add costs, 2 different kind of crews coming out there. I wouldn't take issue with an asphalt apron. I would just like to see some kind of like conceptual sketch or plan, just so that way, there's appropriate radiuses coming out of there for, vehicles coming in and out.
See that, Mr. Conley, that's why I brought that up as far as the apron, because our ordinance it's very clear, 150 feet of the first
Right.
has to be asphalt, and that's why, at least I know it's not your property, but we do really need to get an apron put there.
And
I have no problem with that, sir.
Right. And Mr. Chair, I just want to point out, in the time that we were here, that I've been on the board, I've never seen the board grant relief from that requirement. As Charlie said, you might recommend less than 150 feet, but there's never been any relaxation in total on that requirement.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. Hey, Charlie?
Sorry, I was muted there for a second. So, and just to add to that too, so I just want to make it clear to the board too, obviously the driveways internal to the site, that's all DGA. So, I mean, they do need a technical waiver for the driveways like internal to the site as far as approaching the dwelling and the building. The ordinance does require residential driveways, like as they abut the building, to be paved with asphalt. And I noted what the pavement section is. Really, that's at the discretion of the board. A couple other things in clarity, I just want to clarify for the board. Applicant noted, Mr. Dakotas noted they need a relief for the lot area. Obviously, it's an ARE 6, so 6 acres required. 2.56 is what exists. There's no change to that. They're not given any right-of-way dedication or anything like that. It's already existing private right-of-way across the frontage, so there's no change with that. They do need the relief because it's not on a public right-of-way. As far as the other bulk standards, now that they're showing a DGA 20-foot wide carway and then actual driveways, the prior iteration was kind of utilizing the existing unpaved driveways that are out there. I just did a quick calculation this morning. It's not shown on the applicant's plan, considering the DGA, the building, all the single family dwelling, the garage, the shed expansion for building and lot coverage calculations. For lot coverage, I got 12.4%. Again, that's impervious coverage, where a maximum of 5 is permitted in the zone. So the board does need to consider variance relief from that. And then also for building coverage, the applicant's proposing 3.9%, where a maximum of 3% is permitted. I just want to clarify, I think the original plan that was submitted showed it was compliant. The square footage that's shown on the current plan, it says a single family dwelling is 1,890 square feet. When you actually scale and measure that, it's higher than that. It's about 2,660 square feet. So that's why that building coverage increases, necessitating the variance. The footprint of the buildings hasn't changed from the prior plan. It's just the numbers, I rechecked and remeasured it. So I just want to make sure the board is considering it. And if they're going to grant the variance, I want to make sure it gets into the resolution. As far as the location of the structures, they need a front yard setback variance from the southerly lot line. 100 foot is required. They're proposing 56.8 feet. Obviously, the further back that the building goes from that 20-foot DGA driveway, the more driveway you need to extend to the site to get to the dwelling. There's also limitations. The property is not serviced by public water or sewer, so they're proposing a septic system on there. The location of the structure and the garage are located so they're outside of the 25-foot setbacks for principal structures from the septic systems. So those are logical locations from that perspective. And I believe both are compliant as far as side yard setbacks. What else do we have here? Apologize, I'm going through my notes. I just got most of these this morning. I think there was a little bit of a issue with the transmittal. So I'm kind of just going off of handwritten notes that I have here. The other variance relief that is required is the applicant is proposing a fence around the property along the west, the north, and the east property line. 6-foot solid vinyl fence. A portion of that along the west and the east lot lines extends into the front yard area. The applicant has reduced the height of the fence to 4 feet, but it's solid fence, whereas 50% open space is required within the front yard setback. So the board does need to grant variance relief for the makeup of the fence, obviously not being 50% open. Applicant needs waiver relief for curb and sidewalk requirement. Obviously, this is a landlocked lot. There's no curb and sidewalk on any of the adjacent properties. Also on Oakland Road, from what I can tell from looking at aerials and street view, there aren't any curb and sidewalk along those adjacent frontages. I can confirm what Mr. Dakota said regarding the wetlands LOI. We did receive a copy of that. They did do a presence absence. There's no wetlands or buffer on the subject property, so there's no issues at the rear of the site with wetlands. The only thing that was in that proximity that the applicant is proposing, as Mr. Dakotas mentioned, is the shed expansion to what previously had existed at some time. I measured the total square foot is 408 square feet. Obviously, the applicant, should the board grant relief for that, it doesn't need setback or anything like that. It just impacts the building coverage calculations requiring the variance. Applicant is reminded if the board rules favorably, they need to get any necessary township permits, and building permits for that structure. And trying to think if I have anything else before I wrap it up. Only other note that I had was the dry well to the north of the dwelling is shown by 9 by 9 feet. The applicant previously did provide calculations, which I didn't have any exception to. They look good, but noting that discrepancy in the square footage of the building, I just asked that that dry well be increased in footprint just to provide the adequate stormwater for that increase in the building footprint. But other than that, Mr. Chair, that is all I have for right now.
Okay. Before I turn over to Jen, real quick, snow plowing. Who is responsible for the snow plowing? Is there an agreement?
John?
Nick, Mr. Dakotas?
Sean, do you have any kind of agreement with the front property owner as far as who's going to deal with plowing the road?
Yeah, he for as long as he's been living there, he takes care of the plowing. He has equipment to do that.
Okay. If he sells a property, what happens?
Well, then the other two families that live there and myself will all chip in. It's kind of like a community in there. We all take care of each other and take care of what needs to be done.
Okay, because we have had issues with this before. We've wound up in court over it. So, just.
Yeah, we're all
Mr.
friendly.
Tropley, I'm going to ask you.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Tropley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I know one of our board members on the board now, has been through this.
I was thinking the same thing, Mr. Chair.
But how do we address that now?
Well, I think the applicant has placed on the record how the case is how the roadway maintenance is being handled presently. I think there's a limit to what we can do right now. It's a private roadway.
Right.
So I would say, he's made a representation that it's being handled by the other property owner. I don't think we can really do much more than that.
Okay.
At this point.
I just wanted it on the record, Mr. Tropley.
Right. And Mr. Hughes, you have had some experience with that, and there's no question.
Yes.
Yes, I have. I ended up buying a truck with a plow. It's since been paved, so it's
And it may come down to something like that, but
yeah.
I'm satisfied with the representation on the record.
Okay. That's all I have. Jen? Do you want to?
I really don't have anything to add. I think Charlie hit on all the issues. I mean, the lot is there, and it seems based upon the lot numbering in the area was created by Subdivision at some point. They've done everything we've asked in terms of getting all the information that we've needed, and the septic system is under the jurisdiction of the Board of Health. So, I really don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just one quick thing. I just want to note, obviously, the septic, that's subject to Monmouth County Board of Health, so the applicant is going to require to get that outside agency approval for that and the existing well location. I summarized a bunch of different numbers and square footages and things like that. There are a couple other dimensions that just need to be clarified on the plan. It doesn't impact any setbacks or variances or anything like that. It's just clarity items. I would say as long as the board's all right with it, I will make sure that those get included in any draft resolution that Mr. Tropley prepares, just so that they can be clarified as a condition of approval as a plat requirement. Like I said, didn't really have time to prepare the letter, being that we got the stuff today. But it doesn't impact any of the bulk variances or waivers or anything like that, just for clarity purposes.
Mr.
I
Hughes,
apologize for the lateness. I wasn't here till today, so.
that's okay. Mr. Hughes, do you have any questions or comments?
No, sir. I think I'm good to go.
Mr. Roscoe? Mr. Cantor?
No, sir.
Mr. Moretti?
No,
No, okay. At this time, I'm gonna open it to public. I need a motion to open to public.
I'll make a motion to open the public.
Motion by Mr. Hughes, seconded by Mr. Roscoe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Eileen, if you want to open to public.
Thank you. For any members of the public wishing to ask questions or comments on this application, the chairman has just opened the hearing up for members of the public, and you can use the raise your hand option, and we will let you into the meeting to ask your questions. I can tell you right now, Mr. Chairman, there's no one else on the meeting, so I doubt there's any members of the public wishing to speak, but we'll give them a minute.
Okay. Jose, did you just run out to go call in?
No, I'm here. I'm sure, you can see.
Yeah, okay.
Once
Can I have a motion to close?
Any members of the
motion
public?
to close.
I have a motion by Mr. Moretti. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cantor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sorry, cutting you off there, Eileen.
That's okay. I was going to give him one more chance, but there's nobody there, so.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Dakatis, do you have any further that you would like to add or summation?
I just want to just say, that, as I said earlier, this is, Sean and Christina, their ancestors have owned this property for a long period of time. And I think it'd be fitting for them to be able to move back into it. So I hope that you guys look at their application favorably.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. Obviously, with all the testimony based on all that, including needing to add the asphalt apron and the 25-foot of asphalt, the vertical clearance of 13.5, which I think it's been testified that it's been taken care of, but to make sure that that's there, 15-foot wide drive, the waiver for impervious surface, the front yard setback variance, the fence relief, and to look into adjusting the dry well for the increased square footage. I'd like to say yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Seconded by Mr. Cantor. Motion by Mr. Hughes, seconded by Mr. Cantor. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco. You're
Yes.
muted. Thank you. Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Chairman Nansen.
Based on all testimony placed on the record from our professionals and from professionals, not company professional, but Mr. Dakatis and Mr. Conley, my vote is yes also.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, good luck, Mr. Conley.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
You're
Thank you.
welcome, sir.
Good luck.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further business of the board?
Sir.
Mr.
I have
Conley,
I have nothing.
Charles,
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Jen?
No, sir.
Okay, when's our next meeting? Next week?
Next Monday,
Okay,
I'll be sending the agenda out tomorrow.
okay. Is it pretty packed or not?
Yes, it's Secudis and two others.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
boy.
gonna need to come get a packet.
I'll start processing it tomorrow for you.
Okay, I
Mr.
appreciate it.
Chair, I'm gonna be late to that meeting. Christine will log in at normal time and then I'll log in as soon as I can.
Thanks, Jen.
It's 7 o'clock, right?
7 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
That's our new time going forward.
Or maybe 6 o'clock.
No,
No.
No,
You have to eat, Jose.
Okay, we'll see you no further business. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Hughes, seconded by Mr. Moretti. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Good night,
opposed?
everybody.
Good
Good
night.
Hey,
Good night,
Aye.
everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
See you all next week.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
all right, Jim, thank you.
You're
Good night.
welcome.
Good. Good night.